When The Kissing Booth 3 came out, a lot of fans thought that was it, the big finale of Elle, Noah, and Lee's story. The movie gave Elle a tough decision about her future because she had to choose between following Noah to Harvard, going to Berkeley with her lifelong best friend Lee, or carving out her own path. In a twist that surprised some viewers, she went for the third option. Instead of tying her life to either boy, Elle chose to study video game design at USC, which actually made a lot of sense given her personality. It was a huge move for her character because it showed she was finally ready to take charge of her own life. But the film didn't stop there. It jumped ahead 6 years, showing us Elle and Noah reuniting after such a long time apart. Even though they had broken up before starting college, there were still sparks when they saw each other again. Their reunion ended with them riding off on a motorcycle, and the vibe was definitely nostalgic, as if the door wasn't completely closed on their romance. Those final scenes left plenty of room for interpretation. Joey King even mentioned in an interview that the ending was left wide open on purpose so fans could speculate about what might happen next. She said she has her own interpretation of it, but she loves that people can make their own guesses. That's one of the main reasons why The Kissing Booth 4 makes so much sense. It could finally give a more definite answer about Elle and Noah's relationship instead of leaving everything hanging. At the same time, the story doesn't have to focus on only Elle and Noah. There are other major milestones in the characters' lives that would be perfect for a sequel. For instance, Lee and Rachel's wedding practically begs to be included. Even though they broke up during the third movie, the epilogue revealed that they eventually got back together after going to different colleges. By the 6-year mark, they were not only back as a couple, but also engaged. A wedding would be the perfect backdrop for a reunion because it brings everyone together and creates the ideal setting for emotions, drama, and maybe even rekindled romance. Although Netflix hasn't confirmed a fourth film yet, fans are still buzzing about it. And even though the cast has sometimes spoken about The Kissing Booth 3 like it was the end, the possibilities for a continuation are too strong to ignore. King herself admitted that saying goodbye to Elle was emotional because she played the character through so many important years of her own life. That connection between actor and character doesn't just vanish. Plus, King has already shown she's open to producing new projects, so she could even be involved behind the scenes of another Kissing Booth chapter. Jacob Elordi has also shared his thoughts, and even though he once called The Kissing Booth 3 The Last Kiss, he later joked about a fun idea for a future movie where the characters are old and living in a nursing home. While that might sound silly, it proves he hasn't completely closed the door either. Ideas like that show the actors still feel some attachment to the story, but what really adds weight to the idea of a fourth movie is how much the fan base wants it. The franchise is built on nostalgia, young love, and the messy but heartfelt choices people make while growing up. And honestly, those themes don't end at graduation. If anything, they become even more interesting when the characters are adults making big life decisions. Elle navigating her career in game design, Noah working on his law ambitions, and Lee planning a wedding could all create new dynamics. Of course, there are some challenges. The author Beth Reekles, who wrote the original books, has said that Kissing Booth 3 was meant to be the final chapter. She even described finishing the edits and watching the third movie as a grieving process because it felt like the end of an era. That makes sense because the trilogy was a huge part of her life. But just because the books ended doesn't mean the movies have to stop too. Netflix has a history of expanding beyond the source material when it sees potential, and this franchise definitely still has it. Think about To All the Boys I've Loved Before. That series also wrapped up neatly with its third movie, but the universe didn't stop there. Netflix spun it off into XO Kitty, which turned out to be surprisingly fun and successful. The Kissing Booth could easily do something similar. Even if Joey King, Jacob Elordi, or Joel Courtney get too busy, Netflix could introduce a bunch of new characters to carry on the story while still bringing back the original trio for special appearances. Recasting could also be a possibility, especially if Netflix wants to take the story forward in time. For example, The Kissing Booth 4 could start a decade after the events of the third movie, showing Elle, Noah, and Lee fully settled into their adult lives. In that case, slightly older actors could be brought in to play future versions of the characters, while Joey, Jacob, and Joel could serve as executive producers. That way, the series keeps its star power while still evolving for a new audience. Another option is to build on the epilogue's 6-year jump. Instead of imagining the characters far in the future, the fourth movie could zoom in on those years right after college, because honestly, that's such a relatable time when people are still figuring out careers, relationships, and adulthood in general. Netflix could use that to take the franchise a step ahead, exploring deeper themes like balancing love and ambition, long-term friendships, or even the pressure of growing apart from the people you once thought would be in your life forever. And the best part is, a continuation doesn't need to feel repetitive. The first 3 movies already covered the high school phase, the college decisions, and the growing pains of first love. So the next logical step is adulthood. Elle could be thriving in the gaming industry, Noah might be struggling to balance his career in law with personal happiness, and Lee could be caught up in the whirlwind of planning a wedding. All of that opens doors for heartfelt drama, but also lighthearted fun because at its core, the Kissing Booth has always been about charm, humor, and romance. It's also worth mentioning that the franchise still has a huge fan base around the world. Netflix knows that loyal viewers are gold when it comes to streaming numbers. Even if the main cast is busy, the brand itself is strong enough to carry a new movie or even a limited series. The Kissing Booth 4 would not only draw in longtime fans, but also attract new viewers who didn't grow up with the trilogy. And by introducing fresh faces alongside the originals, Netflix could set up a whole new generation of stories, just like it did with XO Kitty. Although the cast has become very busy, Elordi with Euphoria, King with her production projects, and Courtney exploring new roles, schedules don't stay packed forever. If Netflix really wants the sequel, they could make it happen. And because streaming services thrive on nostalgia and recognizable titles, bringing back the Kissing Booth would be a smart move. So even though the third movie felt like a goodbye, there are too many opportunities for a comeback to completely dismiss it. Whether it's Elle and Noah figuring out if they're truly endgame, Lee and Rachel walking down the aisle, or brand new characters entering the mix, The Kissing Booth 4 has plenty of material to explore. It could give fans the closure they've been waiting for, while also refreshing the story with new directions. In the end, the trilogy might have wrapped things up nicely, but love stories don't really end just because a movie fades to black. Relationships keep growing, people change, and life keeps throwing new challenges. That's exactly why The Kissing Booth still has room for another chapter. And if Netflix plays it right, the fourth movie could be the one that truly takes the franchise a step ahead, cementing it as more than just a fun teen rom-com, but as a heartfelt series about growing up, moving forward, and maybe finding your way back to where you belong. And that's that for today's video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.